And, you know,
They're like, no. They're like, no, sit down, shut up. You sit in that little desk and don't have any aspirations of any kind.
yeah.
And that's all we're willing to let you do.
And then you goose step into the office, and I pledge my allegiance to the CEO today and forevermore. The Career Challenges Podcast, a collection of stories about overcoming professional hurdles and learning lessons the hard way. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Kyle Werkerly, Certified Ghostwriter. Welcome to episode 2 of the Career Challenges Podcast, and my guest is Laura Hansen. She's a consultant, speaker, mediator, and author. I've even had the privilege of reading a few chapters from her book that's set to debut soon. She's also an expert in how to be serious and silly, and how to go from silly to serious, and from serious to silly. Alright, so you're definitely in for a treat. Enjoy it. Let's get started. Let me welcome to the show Laura Hansen. And so, Laura, have you ever been falsely accused of something before?
Yes, actually, in my career. Interestingly, the teaching profession used to be sort of one in which a person had the opportunity to be seen as someone who was, I wouldn't say not beyond reproach, but at least you were seen as a person of integrity, which was awesome.
Yes.
And I know you, Kyle, were a teacher for a short time, and I loved on your show. I heard your podcast, and it was fantastic. And you understand a little bit about the teaching world.
My wife is still a teacher as well. So this is her 11th year. So I keep hearing these teaching stories every day, too. So it's still there. It's still a major part of my life. So, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. And kudos to her, by the way. Teachers are rock stars just by virtue of the job, really, that they do. And it was actually in one of my very recent years before I left the classroom to do some consulting work and speaking, mediating, and authoring. And I was in the process of just doing my thing. I taught students that were super high level Cambridge program kids, and I taught kids that were like, meh, school, whatever. And I was no emails, no nothing really so much except for maybe a couple months beforehand. I had emailed to say, look, I'm struggling to get your daughter to turn in some work so that she would be pulling herself out of kind of that DNF range. Is there anything you can help me with? Give me advice, whatever. And they just kind of had said, no, we're not sure what to do either. And that had been it. A couple months go by, no real progress having been made in this realm of helping this young lady be successful. I still do my usual thing. And I'm in this meeting that had been called to, I thought the meeting had been called to help this young lady be more successful in her academics. My class was not the only one that she'd struggled in. And the people sat there stony-faced. It was her mom and her dad. And I thought we were there for a problem-solving meeting. Everyone else seemed to think we were there for a problem-solving meeting. And the people just sat there and said, you told everyone in the class on a day that our daughter was gone, you said that she had mental health problems and she was probably going to be switching schools anyway. So we want her out of your class. And of course, I'm shocked and horrified because, of course, it would never say something like that behind a student's back or publicly, to a whole group of students. Yeah. And so I'm shocked. And they say it, of course, in front of my administrator and in front of the counselor sitting there and in front of a couple of other teachers who, again, also thought they were there to help this young lady. So I'm shocked, and I say nothing because I'm at this point fighting tears, not knowing where this assault had come from. And so other people jump in and try to allay their concerns and try to problem solve and say this is what the meeting was for. We don't think that has been an issue. I then jump in and say I would never, ever say that. This has never been a concern of mine anyway. I have no idea what her mental health condition is. She is always laughing and talking in class. She seems very happy. And of course I would never break confidentiality, even if there was something that I knew about.
Yeah.
Oh, they were upset. Oh, they were angry. Oh, they'd heard from other students. And this, of
Oh,
course, this was their source of information.
yeah. Just through the
And
grapevine. They didn't have any actual proof, did they?
that's correct.
Yeah, and that's happened to me too. And I think that's one of the main reasons that drove me away from teaching was just this grapevine. My daughter told me that you said this in class, and all of a sudden I had to have 80 different pieces of evidence to prove that I hadn't done that. And that I was just like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
Well, and the difficulty here was that it was her friends had told her,
Mm-hmm.
and then she had told her folks.
Mm.
And so here it was, 8 steps later, we're here and sitting in this ridiculous meeting. Oh, and it was so awful, and I felt so horrible, and nothing I said mattered. I finally burst into tears because at that point I'd been teaching for 18, 19 years, and I'd established a good reputation for myself, and I had good relationships with my students, and my administration respected me. And I mean, it was like you didn't feel like you needed to earn your wings, if you will, at any point during that time. And it was so awful to think that you'd done everything that you could to help not only this young lady, but everybody else to be successful, and then to be so assaulted this way. And, and of course, the first thing you're thinking is, well, I don't know if I want her in my class anymore either. Maybe she hates me. You know what I mean? But the teacher bones inside of your body are saying, let me do what I can to still help her. So again, we're trying to brainstorm these things, and they would have heard none of it. Well, the other part of this I did not share with you is it was May 4th or 5th or 6th. It was right in there near the end of the school year.
Oh, no.
And they still wanted a class change. Still.
Oh, my gosh.
They're like, nothing else will make her happy. Nothing else will make her satisfied. Nothing else will help her be successful. This is the only way she's going to pass the semester.
Oh, my gosh. So were you still able to get along with the student? I
was.
Okay. And there was no hint that she bore any ill will?
Well, and she was always sort of on that borderline of, I'm going to be a snot to you if I want to.
Yeah.
She always was a little bit on that borderline of, I feel like I'm not going to be very friendly today, but I'll be that way to my peers, instead of you or whatever. She always sort of had a little bit of that going on, but it just kind of depended on the day, and her friends were very quick to protect her, like, oh, she's just having a bad day, like that. And so I always sort of gave her the benefit of the doubt, because kids sometimes do have bad days, and sometimes
you're a good teacher. Good teachers always give the benefit of the doubt. To their detriment, they give the benefit of the doubt.
Always. And it's not like she was the only one that would have a bad day. Now, once in a while, if she would, get a little bit uglier with her tone, as with any other student, I would say, ooh, that tone of voice, maybe just if you could rephrase that or say it with a little less of an edge. I don't know. I think I'd feel a little bit better about that request. If she was like, I need to go to the bathroom now or whatever, then, I might say something like that, just to remind her there are other ways to approach people with your requests. We are a society of civilized people, that sort of thing. But really, her behavior hadn't changed from before that to after that. But the administration, to their credit, they didn't cave. I simply asked at one point in the meeting if I could leave, because I said, I don't know that my presence here is helpful. Because the parents were actually getting more revved. Like, the more upset I got and tried to say, I am so sorry. I had no idea that this is how you felt. I had no idea that this rumor, I called it that, was circulating amongst her friends and apparently her. at some point I just turned to my administration because they didn't offer me the opportunity to leave. I just said, I don't think my presence here is very helpful. And then I went ahead and I left.
Wow.
It was so awful.
Yeah. That does not sound like fun at all.
Well, and then I went to my administration actually later, and I said, I think in the future, then I know we didn't know that was how they were going to come in, but I think in the future, as soon as we find out that that they are so stalwart about what they want, that you should just go ahead, protect the teacher how you need to, and let them out of the room as fast as possible. Because I said that guy was so angry, I thought he was going to come over the table.
Oh, wow.
So I think as much as possible that we just keep it. It was really rather ugly, and I would say I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
A definite, as you say in your podcast, career challenge. Yes.
Yes, a career challenge for sure. You said you didn't know exactly what happened or why the meeting was called. Did they not set an agenda? Did they not let you know about it, what was going to happen in that meeting before you showed up?
Well, the issue, I think, was there was a lot of assuming that went on because of her grades. The counselors had pulled her grades and looked and said, okay, parents are really pushing for this meeting. It certainly, most certainly is academic. Mm-hmm. And so we need to just make sure we get on this. We're rolling into finishing up the semester. We probably want to make sure that we've got her passing. Mm-hmm. So let's pull in these teachers and make sure that we've got this taken care of. And then we should be pretty good to go. What hadn't happened was, I think, if you talk to people and say, what are you worried about, or what do you want to talk about, and then we set that in, are more purposeful about what that meeting should entail. And if they had said, because they probably would have, we really only want to talk about this one thing. We really want to change up our schedule. We want to make sure that Hansen is off the list. Red flag, right? We would have known right away. We would have known right away. And then they would have had the opportunity to say, is it appropriate then for her not to be there? Or they could have discussed, admin and counseling could have even discussed, do we even want Laura to be there? Would that maybe be better if she wasn't there? Because maybe it sounds like that's a volatile powder keg we could be setting up or putting in motion. And we want to make sure we protect everybody properly and have the best conversation we can to problem solve. The meeting should be a problem-solving meeting. All your meetings should be for problem-solving and moving forward, right? Every meeting, no matter what industry you're in, I think, should probably about what are we doing. We're maybe going to check in on what's going on. Maybe it's like a progress check meeting, and then you're going to move forward in some way, probably. And that just did not. That was not what happened.
Obviously.
Definite learning experience.
Wow. So, all right, checking back on the notes. So yeah, this is one I'm never really sure about myself. When they ask if you know somebody who works there in that company, and I've only seen it happen one other time with me. I had applied and I knew a guy who worked there, and so they said, "Oh, I think his name was John Michael. You know John Michael?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." The guy goes, "Huh." It just kept going. I was like, I guess that never really helped. So in your experience, is that question even relevant at all?
This question, and it has come up more and more on documentation, actually. Not in interviews, but in paperwork. Has come up. And I don't know. I mean, part of what I wrote on your document that you asked me to fill out prior was, is this even legal? I don't even know if this is legal for them to want to know who you know. Because, and I really struggle with this because I'm like, wow, is this going to hinder my ability to get hired because of some kind of a nepotism guideline that they have? Because when I've worked at a group home for juvenile delinquents, and I was so surprised that I knew somebody who was totally distantly related to me, who I saw them in the staff meeting at one point. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's my uber distant relative from like thrice removed second 18th cousin or whatever. And I was so excited, and I was like, I haven't seen you since we were like 7, right?
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, the people that hired me, they were like, we have a nepotism guideline. And I was like, whoa. But then somebody goes, oh, it's okay because you said you were like, 18 times removed second 18th cousin, whatever, from you haven't seen, whatever, and it's fine. And so I thought, well, good, but now I don't know, because it doesn't matter how I fill it out. If I know somebody or don't know somebody, I've never gotten the job anyway. So I don't understand how it works. But it does seem like it's being asked a lot. It's being asked a lot. So it's almost like in my business networking meetings where they say, so who do you know who might need their air conditioning looked at? Send them my way, kind of a thing, like we do when we do referrals. So when I'm filling something out online, for example, if I've been looking for work and it says who referred you, it seems like that seems to provide an in. Right? So it's almost like they're like, oh, if so-and-so told you about the job, that's cool. And that still hasn't worked out, no. So I don't know. But at the same time, sometimes later on in the online application, they're like, who else do you know that works in this district? So then I'm like, why do you want to know that? Why should that matter? Yeah. So that's almost creepy because they want the name. Yeah. They want the name. True. And it's later in the online application, because online applications, as you know, take forever.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to go off on a rant right there. Please groan. Yeah. It's the most humiliating waste of time, because you're like, dude, online my resume, you're like, your resume, which is already 2 pages, which you've already had to squish onto 2 pages because you have tried so much and so many things to try to have a wealth of experiences that you're like, I already have to pick and choose, and then you upload it, and then it's like, now even if it does try to upload things from your resume, it still does it wrong. So you still have to go through and go, or then it goes, list your duties, and you're like, it's on my resume. Yeah.
So why? Yeah, I just copy and paste it from my resume into the little box. So I'm like, I thought you had a sophisticated AI program that could do it for me, but apparently not. I'm the AI who has to do it.
You are the AI, Kyle. You are. It's Kyle AI Weckerly. Or sometimes you just go see resume. Yeah. You know what? See resume. See resume. You've already got the document anyway. See resume. Yeah. But that's the thing. It's everything about it is so inhumane anyway. So anyway, there's that. And then this other time, it said, who do you know? And then it said, the other thing it asked was, will you be still working? It goes, okay, so what are you doing now? And will you still try to be doing it while you're working for us? Huh. Yeah. Like, will you be loyal enough to us?
Oh, yeah. I hate that, because I'd applied for an administrative assistant position, and I was still working on my ghostwriting certification at the time, but I'm like, I just need a job, okay? I agreed with the company. Their mission and everything. It was like I wanted to work for them. I thought it was a great place to be. And this was the administrative assistant to the CEO, and it was going to involve some ghostwriting, because I was actually going to have to reply to clients and customers as the CEO. I'm like, well, that would be great experience.
It's perfect. Yeah.
But then I said, well, there's they were telling me at the beginning it's going to be for at least 2 years. After that, we may extend the contract. Da da da. I'm like, that's great. And then they said, well, what are you doing now? I'm like, well, I'm working on my ghostwriting certification. I want to write books for people, and I could almost see it in their face and kind of go, I'm not sure about you anymore. I'm like, I don't get it. You don't want me to progress and to expand and to do more. You want me to just fit myself in a little box? And,
They're like, no. They're like, no, sit down, shut up. You sit in that little desk and don't have any aspirations of any kind.
Yeah.
And that's all we're willing to let you do.
And then you goose step into the office, and I pledge my allegiance to the CEO today and forevermore. And you go sit down.
Yes, that's exactly right. I've been in interesting situations because I moved from Seattle, as you probably know from my background, and I came back here to the Midwest because my parents are here, my family is here, I've got people here. I have missed them for some time now, and it was time to come back and be with my peoples. And so in trying to pick up a little bit of extra work and extra money in addition to some of the other stuff that I do, I've put out some stuff, and put out some applications and everything, get a little bit of extra cash. And you should see the looks on people's faces. They're just like, and why? When I have an interview, so they're like, so you do some speaking and some consulting and you want to work here because, and I'm like, what do you mean? Haven't I answered all your questions? I'm obviously qualified. I mean, I'll be super qualified. I'll be totally qualified. Everything else I've done in my entire life, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. I'm totally qualified, and I'll have everything on my documents, every answer I've given, and they'll be like, so you've been in Seattle and you moved back here, and they'll go, why?
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't think you can even ask me that, first of all.
Yeah.
But they'll pry, they'll pick like that. And I'll be like, first of all, I already told you, voluntarily, which I didn't have to tell you why I moved. That's a personal thing. But I will tell them that because I want to give them a reason to give them context, for what I'm doing. And so I will do that voluntarily. And then people will be like, they're like, I think I need to guess at her motivations. I think I need to figure out why she would leave the Pacific Northwest for Iowa.
I don't know. Is Iowa bad, quote unquote, bad compared to Seattle?
I'm like, people, this is your home. This is where you live. Why would you be dissing on it? Why would you do that to someone who's in an interview? I mean, why would you be like, we hate it here, why did you come?
Oh my gosh.
You would not believe the number of people who do that. When I would introduce myself to somebody, I'm like, so hey, I just I moved back here in October. And so I'd introduce myself to some of these business networking meetings. This is before I was, trying to doing interviews or whatever. And I would just be like, hey, I just moved here and I'm really excited to be back. I grew up here for a little bit in my youth, and it's so different, all these new restaurants and everything. And I'll be super excited, and they'll be like, you came here from where? And wait, and you moved here?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like stymied. And in the meantime, all my excitement, all my enthusiasm, all my bubbly, all my blah, blah, without the champagne even, and they'll just like deflate me.
Wow.
And I'm like, dudes, and then it's so hard to have a conversation with anybody because they're like bleak,
Wow.
I'm like, come on, people, this is fun. This is a good place. We're supposed to be enjoying ourselves here.
Yeah.
That has been a challenge, and I know I didn't list that on my paper, but that has definitely been a career challenge for me when I'm talking to people and some of them are so not happy where they are, and I'm trying to be like, let's do this thing, and they're like, why are you here?
Yeah.
That has actually been strange.
Yeah, I feel that too. And on LinkedIn, I feel it's more positive. There's a lot more positive vibes and energy moving around. But also just the people I talk with, if I end up running into them on the street or whatever, we're talking business, and they're just like, well, I can't do that, or I'm just not creative. In fact, a guy told me today, I'm not creative. I said, why would you think that? Tell me the first thing that comes to your mind right now. Oh, I don't know. Are you kidding me? And he was lamenting that his 8-year-old son was saying, well, build something with Legos. I don't know what you want me to build. They're Legos, Dad. You just build. And to me, that's basically the starting rifle or the starting shot for a race. They say, just build. Okay, let's go. And he's like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm like, don't think, just do. So yeah,
It's like that scene in Bull Durham.
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think, just throw. Don't think, just throw. When he says that to him, that's
Definitely.
a great scene.
Definitely. Wow. So with you moving back to Iowa, has that kind of been the start of your speaking career, or have you been speaking before you moved back into the Midwest, I guess I should say?
Yeah, this switcheroo has been from the teaching world, which always you're speaking, as you know, always.
Every day.
And so what I did, though, was I had some training before that had me speaking in other ways, just not doing it career-wise. And so I had kind of a segue training overlap with that, because I did something with Toastmasters for several years to practice my speaking in various ways, in different ways. Lots of experiences that way, not only with speeches, but also evaluations, which are their own type of speech, of course. And then I also did a training called Laugh Tech Northwest, and that is learn about funny. And that is how to, and tech is the techniques, of course.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And so with that, though, I was able to learn how to use humor and integrate that into not only my teaching and my teaching style more and more often, but also into everyday life, into what we do, into how we talk about our business, how we interact with customers, how you might do things like swivel and pivots like comedians do sometimes, but with your business pitch, and find ways to really just become all the more unique and interesting and resilient.
Definitely.
And that's been really, really very exciting to do that. So I have that actually as a unique aspect too of how I go about my business and just life in general. So that's been very exciting too. So I work that into a lot of what I do as well with my speaking. And then if I, as part of my consulting, when I maybe go into a business and I say, okay, if I'm going to observe for them, maybe they want to make some changes. And then I'm able to use humor in how I do my observations, or I do my assessment, or I give people feedback, and I can utilize that instead of always being all serious or gloom and doom or whatever. And that's been really helpful too, because I can use humor to help me get through some of these more challenging times of when people are all, what did you hear? Or whatever. I can still see the humor in it. I can still think, oh my God, that needs to be a Saturday Night Live skit or whatever.
And that's a great skill to have too. Just trying to find the humor in it. And do you find that putting humor into your communication, I guess in a way, helps grease the wheels?
Yes, I think most definitely. I think when people see that you have not only your own style of things, but also your own sort of upbeat, interesting, kind of, I don't want to say a giggly way of looking at life and its situations, but a smiling way of looking at things. They also realize, oh, it's not going to be that bad. Either what I'm doing with her to work with her on things, but it's not going to be that bad to fix.
Mm-hmm.
My whole thing is communicate strategically. So change talk is communicate strategically, forging solutions, right? So if we can communicate strategically or change some things up strategically, we should be able to forge solutions in some way, making progress through whatever it is you want to change up.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that is you're going to work with your family because they have been really, really super stubborn about wanting to get their wills done, or start talking about how to handle the family farm or the property, or there are 7 kids or 4 kids or whatever, and no one wants to talk about what to do when mom and dad decide they're not as mobile, and there's maybe a huge family house, and that 2 kids are going to want it to, and the other 2 are like, I'm out of here. But you're not talking about what's gonna maybe happen to all that stuff, and nobody's really wanting to talk about it, even though they know they need to. Well, how do you even begin those conversations when some people are more invested than others? Well, we do that once a year. My whole family gets together, the originals anyway, and we get together and we have what I call an annual family meeting, and we all get together for a day, sometimes 2, just take a weekend and do it, and we do it in June or July. And we all get together in a combination of fun and silly and talking about serious things. For a while, for a long time, some people in my family were, oh, no, cremation? Put me in the ground in a box, And other people were absolutely cremate, I want to be sprinkled, helicopter, not needed. But, and people where I had the music picked out, I know what I want for my funeral, and all that stuff. And we were all over the place. We started doing it in 2011.
Wow.
And my parents have some property, and we needed to talk about what about that? Is anybody even going to want that? We had to figure all that stuff out, because if somebody gets hit by a car tomorrow, I'll tell you, it is messy sometimes how you have to deal with all that, and so stressful for people. Mm-hmm. And my parents didn't want that for us. They had 3 girls, and we're all really super different. Yes. So they said, we've got to make sure we've got all our ducks in the row. And of course, then we were like, well, what if one of us goes? And my parents freaked out. They're like, oh, we've got to figure this out. So, but not everybody wants to talk about that stuff. Well, it doesn't have to be this horrible, terrible, stressful conversation. Yes, stress. Yeah, there'll be some of that. But it doesn't have to be as scary as all that. If you can at least have everybody start to have conversations, and then you should write it down. People are like, oh, we don't need to write it down. Really? Do you really think everybody's going to remember all that? So that's something, for example, that humor, back to your question, that humor for me, as somebody who facilitates that process, who can be kind of the sounding board for some of that, is that conversation can begin before you even go to what I call the experts, the people that write stuff up in a more serious way, like your lawyer people, or maybe you want to talk to a trust officer at a bank or something. I can help you figure out like the who to go to even, and then you can formalize things a little bit more. But even starting the conversation can be really hard sometimes when people are really stubborn. I was talking to some older folk and people, and they were saying the people that they have the most trouble with are their young people. Like the young people are the most stubborn about, oh, we don't need to talk about that. Oh, there's plenty of time to talk about that. And sometimes it's their elders who are, oh yeah, we do need to talk about it. But because the young people are like, oh, it's fine, and they rush out the door with their kids or whatever, then the conversations don't happen. So sometimes it's them that are the problems.
I can understand that. Well, now it's making me want to talk to my parents, even though that might be a gloomy conversation. So how are you able to make that switch then if you're having your light conversation and you have to have this serious talk and they have to know you're serious about what I'm saying here? How can you make that switch in your communication?
Right. Well, I think with adults, I think you can just be really direct, I think, and you can say, I think it's great that we've been joking around about this, and thanks for making fun of me, John, by the way. Really appreciated that joke about how my jeans just fit. Yeah, appreciate that. But now it is time to switch it up a little bit. Now it's time to actually change the tone. I really actually got you guys here together, for example. Really just got you guys here together because I actually do need to talk about you. Actually, not about you. I know you want me to talk about you, but we've already done that and made fun of each other, which was fun. But actually now we do need to talk about me, and I need to talk about something really serious with you guys. So if we could go ahead and put our smiles on pause and go ahead and kind of dig a little bit deeper into something, we do need to come away with our time together, having talked about this. And it doesn't have to be the whole night, but we do need to dig into something that is a little less ha-ha. Mm-hmm. So there, even while I'm getting serious, it's like a transition time, right? So I was still in a little bit of a joking way, though. I was still telling them we're going to bring it down into something more serious. So that's how I'd be doing it if I was talking with friends. And I was doing it that way, and I was letting them know, okay, yeah, we've been joking around, we've been doing stuff, but it's going to get heavy here in a minute. Yeah. That would be maybe a style that I would use if I was talking with friends, letting them know we're gonna be going down into the depths here in just a minute.
Wow, well, that's great. And now for more serious questions, but what's next for you in your professional journey?
My professional journey, actually, I have a speaking engagement on Saturday, which is in Chicago. I will be driving up there with my sister's actually going to come with me. She's going to be my videographer and photographer.
Definitely.
And we'll drive up to Chicago and go to this wonderful event that's called Faith, Fire, and Focus, Overcoming Burnout.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll be part of this wonderful event that was organized by Donna Tomich Adair. And she has set up this wonderful event that will encompass Friday nights as well as Saturday. Starts again at 11 and goes till about 5, where people will be part of a community, because then it continues with an online supportive group where people will learn how to basically kind of re-energize themselves, because burnout is a real problem in our society, as you know. I won't be there until Saturday, but she will, because of her art background. She's widely skilled in many things. And also, by the way, a fellow Toastmaster, which is super cool. Yeah. She will take them through from 6 to 9 on Friday night, take them through a painting. They'll all paint together sort of the same picture. She'll give them instructions on how to do it, and they'll all work together on this painting activity on Friday night. And then we will convene it's a downtown historic hotel on the Loop. It's one of the Hyatt hotels. And we'll have this wonderful speaking adventure from about 11. There's lunch in there too, from 11 to about 5, where there'll be inspirational and motivational speakers all about this overcoming burnout idea of how to re-energize and re-engage yourself and have strategies for avoiding burnouts. And I'm one of those speakers.
Wow. And so
do you have
any more speaking engagements coming up after that?
I'm going to have to talk with someone who I've engaged as my publicist because of this book that I've written called A Little Unorthodox, a high school handbook for educators, or actually instructors is the word I used. And we're going to set some things up, I think, with that, because that I was hoping to have out in April. And actually, it's going to be May, because we had a little bit of trouble with images. They were coming out a little bit blurry. And so I needed to make sure they were coming out more clear and that my cover was nice and sharp. And so I need to update my website, actually, so it doesn't say April, that it says May. And because of that, I might actually have a couple of things I'm doing with my book, but I'm going to have to check on that. I am available for speaking engagements. I speak on a number of topics. And if anybody's listening to this podcast, go to my website, changetalk.co. It is not .com, because the .com was taken when I was digging out my name. And so I was like, that's all right. .co can mean company also. And so good, I grabbed that one. But I do speak on my breast cancer experience. If you want to hear something about how managing change can also not deter you when I have a chronic health condition, my lymphedema that came from breast cancer is something I live with every day. I have that in my left arm. And I talk about the annual family meeting stuff that you can do. I've got something if you're a business owner, the customer service strategy that I have for you is my very own specially designed, what I call my people strategy. PEOPLE is everything stands for something different for that strategy. Yeah. So I've got that. And then I also have, it's the kind of thing where when you think about how you would implement some of those strategies for a little unorthodox, I just call it something that you maybe would use to engage your students or engage yourself as a teacher in different ways to become a little unorthodox. Because so much of even what modern day education is, our students are still disconnected in a lot of ways because our society has changed so fast.
Yeah.
And a lot of teaching we're sort of like, no, as teachers, we're like, I don't know what to do with these kids, And so I just wrote up some things in my book that talk about what I did to make sure that I was still being really successful with the students. And so that's what my book is about. So anyway, so I have a lot of speeches like that, but I also consult. And so I have some things on there that I do with people that maybe are more in smaller groups. So keynotes, consulting, I just have all kinds of things I can do for people if they are interested.
Well, thank you, Laura, for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And best of luck in your professional journey.
It was my pleasure, and best of luck to you. I love your podcast. And in fact, I did a post on your podcast, and I saw that well over 100 people even looked at the fact that I had posted about your podcast. So awesome. People are following and looking at the Weckerly activities.
Definitely. So I need to leverage that.
You do.
All right. Will do. All right. Would you like to be a guest on the Career Challenges podcast? Visit thecareerchallengespodcast.com to find out how you can share your story. Eager to share your story with a wider audience and enhance your brand? Visit weckerlywriter.com. That's WECKERLYWRITER.com to discover how you can begin your author journey. What are you waiting for?